inefficiency of monopoly, or what you call as deadweight loss of a monopoly. This is what we're going to do in this recording. Well, social efficiency would require what? It would require that the cost and benefits are equalized. That's what social efficiency would require, right? So the point is that whatever, we are producing, for example, as a firm, we are creating a benefit for the people, right? And that is, we are creating something of value. The value which people are putting on our product, that is given by the demand curve. That is their willingness to pay, right? That is what is given by the demand curve. So demand curve is basically telling us the willingness to pay. On the other hand, you have the cost function, or the marginal cost function, or the supply function, which is telling the cost of producing the commodity, right? So taking these two things together, we'll try to find out the efficient outcome first of all. So social efficiency would require balancing of costs and benefits. Balancing of costs and benefits, right? So how are you creating benefit? You are creating benefit by giving something of value to the people. So benefit is by creating something of value, right, for people. Right. And what is value? Value is what people are willing to pay for it. That is what is meant by value, right? So what people are willing to pay for it. What is telling us the value? Demand curve, right? The demand curve tells the marginal willingness to pay. So basically what demand curve is telling is what are the benefits which are being appropriated by the society when the firm is creating some product. Okay. Supply curve it measures the costs of producing the good. So it measures the cost of producing the good. And for the monopolist case, the industry supply curve is what the marginal cost curve of the firm, right? So this is basically the MC curve. So where the marginal willingness to pay is equal to the marginal cost, that is the efficient level of output. So the efficient level of output is efficient level of output is where is given by the intersection of demand and MC curve. It's given by the intersection of demand and MC curve. Well, you have this. You have the output. You have price, costs, everything here. And you have the demand curve. Right, let me call that as D. You have the MR curve. We call that as MR. You have the MC curve, and which I call that as S is equal to MC curve. That is what your supply curve also, and that is what my MC curve is. Okay. Well, monopolist is going to produce at the point where MR is equal to MC. Right, at this point. And it is going to charge this price. Right, it is going to charge this price. While competitive outcome is going to be where supply is equal to demand, and this is going to be the price. So what do you have? You have this. You have this is what monopolist is going to produce. This is what monopolist is going to charge. This is what competitive outcome, or you can say the efficient outcome also. Where demand is equal to supply, and this is what I call as competitive price or the efficient price, right? Now just think about it. For output less than QE, so for any output less than QE, for example, at this level, even at QM for that matter, the benefits which are being received by the society are more than the costs, right? Because at this particular output, the benefits received by the society are this much and the cost is this much. So the benefits received by the society are more than the cost of producing it. Benefits received by the society from consuming a unit of good, right, is greater than the costs of producing a unit of the product, right? For something which is greater than the QE, for example, here at this particular point, right? Here at this particular point. So I'm not marking this. For this level of Q, the benefits are this much and the cost is this, right? So for Q greater than QE, benefits received by the society are less than the costs. They are less than the cost, right? So you look at the monopolist outcome. Monopolist outcome is at QM, and he's charging PM. So if you compare it with the competitive outcome or the efficient outcome, what you'll find is that the monopolist is producing too little, but it is charging too much. That's what it is, as compared to the efficient outcome. So you look at this particular point, that is, you might write that monopoly produces too little, output, and charges too high a price compared to the efficient output. Generated by the perfectly competitive firm. You can see this. The output is lesser, price is more, right? Also, monopolist is not producing at the minimum of average cost, right? So also, monopolist is not producing at minimum of average cost, right? So there is some amount of the deadweight loss which is going to occur because society is working with a monopoly, not with a firm, not with a perfectly competitive firm. So it's like an inefficiency which is coming. So there is the loss of output from having a monopoly in the market as compared to the perfectly competitive firm. So that is what is called the deadweight loss, right? So it is a measure of inefficiency. So deadweight loss is a measure of inefficiency of a monopoly. Deadweight loss is a measure of inefficiency of a monopoly, right? So that is the point. It is the measure of inefficiency of the monopoly, and there is the loss of output from having a monopoly rather than the perfectly competitive outcome in case of the market is going to work with a monopoly, not with the perfectly competitive outcome, not with the perfectly competitive outcome, right? Okay, now if you just want to look at it, you will find that there is one portion here. This is completely lost. Let me just draw a diagram for the deadweight law so that you understand it better. Right. So you have the output Q, you have price and cost, you have the demand function, right? You have the MR function, and you have the S equals to MC supply curve, which is working like the marginal cost curve here. Monopolist is going to produce at this point, and price is going to be this. So you have what? You have monopolist is producing here, charging PM, and competitive firm is going to produce here, where demand is equal to supply and charging this much, right? Okay. Now, what happens is that in case of the society is going to shift from being a monopoly to a competitive firm, from having a monopoly to a competitive firm, then what will happen is that earlier consumer surplus was this much, right? In case of monopoly, this was the consumer surplus. Now, the consumer surplus is going to be this much. Right? So there is an addition of the consumer surplus by this much amount. When society is now going to work with a competitive firm instead of the monopoly, right? So there is an addition of this area. So let me call this area as A, this rectangle, and this triangle as B. So this much units of QM were also being produced by a monopoly firm. But now, since they are being produced by a competitive firm, they're being sold at a lower price. That's a benefit to the consumers. This triangle is coming as a surplus for the consumers. Why? Because now there are extra units which are also being produced at a lower price, PC. So that's an addition, right? This was there. Okay. So what happens is when the society is going to move from a monopoly to a competitive firm, then what happens is that the producer surplus for a competitive firm is this much. This much is going to be the producer surplus, but this area of the producer surplus, truly speaking, it was not available when there was only a monopolist. So this area is available now because the society is working with a competitive firm, not with the monopolist. You getting the point? So basically what happens is that this area, let me just, I don't know how should I mark this. This area is not available to the society when it was working with a monopolist firm and not with the competitive firm. So when it starts working with a competitive firm, this area is also available to the society, right? So this area B plus C is what is called deadweight loss. This area is what is called deadweight loss. So let us do a quick example. So you have Q is equal to 30 minus P as the demand function. I can also write this as P is equal to 30 minus Q. Fair enough. Cost function is half Q square. So, beta, what is the MR function? First of all, what is the total revenue function? 30Q minus Q square. This is what TR is. MR is going to be 30 minus 2Q. MC is half into 2Q, which is going to be equal to Q, right? So monopolist is going to produce where MR is equal to MC. That would mean 30 minus 2Q is equal to Q. So monopolist is going to produce Q is equal to 10. And the price which it is going to charge is 30 minus Q, which is 30 minus whatever, your 10, which is 70, right? What are the profits of the monopolist? Price into price into quantity minus cost. Minus cost. So this thing comes out to be 150. Fair enough? Okay. So if I just want to draw this, demand curve. So I've just drawn this 30-30 like this. MR like this. Your MC is equal to Q, right? That's what my MC curve now. Okay. So monopolist is producing at this point. At MC equals to MR. Okay. At MC equals to MR, and it is going to charge this one. It is charging what? It is charging price 20, and it is producing this guy, right? Okay. Now you tell me, what is going to be the socially optimal price? What is going to be that? The socially optimal price is going to be where demand is equal to the margin cost. That is this one, this price beta. Demand is equal to the marginal cost. So demand is what? Your 30 minus Q. Marginal cost is what? Q. So Q comes out to be what? 20. Q comes out to be what? Sorry, 30 minus Q is equal to, sorry, 20 kahan se aa raha? Sorry, 15. Q comes out to be what? 15. Okay. At Q is equal to 15, what is going to be the price? 30 minus 15, which is equal to 15. Fair enough. So this is what my quantity is under the competitive structure. This is what my price is, right? This is what my price is. So what is going to be the deadweight loss? Deadweight loss is this area. Deadweight loss is this area. So how do you calculate deadweight loss? That is the area of this triangle. Achha, what is going to be this thing? So at Q is equal to 10, MC is going to be equal to 10. I need this point also, no? No? Yeah, I need this point also. So the base of the triangle is what? 20 minus 10. Height of the triangle is what? 15 minus 10. And this thing comes out to be 25. This thing comes out to be 25. This is what the deadweight loss of the monopoly, right? So up until now, we have talked about monopoly. We have talked about the profit maximization. We have talked about, where the profits are going to be maximized using the first order condition and the second order conditions. Now we're going to talk about the product quality also. So let me just take you through this. Suppose there's a consumer and his willingness to pay for a quality X. So X is a quality, and his willingness to pay for a quality is given by some inverse demand function. So willingness to pay for a quality X is given by the inverse demand function PQX. So Q is the quantity, X is the quality, right? So, and you say del P by del Q, it should be negative. That is, if quantity is going to increase, of course, demand is going to, you have to sell this at a lower price, right? So, but del P by del X is greater than 0. If quality is going to increase, price charge will be higher, right? Price charge it will be high. So this is a normal law of demand. This guy, if if quality is going to increase, your price is going to be increased. Fair enough. Here, if quantity is going to increase, you can sell the increased quantity at a lower price. So if the costs of producing QNX are given by CQX. So there are two endogenous variables for the monopoly. Monopoly can choose the quality, monopoly can also choose the quantity. So the profit maximization is going to be like this. Price into quantity minus cost. This is your revenue, price into quantity. Price is a function of QNX into quantity, minus C as a function of QNX. So for a profit max, what you do? You find out first of all del pi by del Q, right? So first function as it is into derivative of second plus second function as it is into derivative of first minus del C by del Q, which I'm writing as CQ equals to 0. So this is, there are two first order conditions because there are two endogenous variables. One is Q, another is X. And then you have del pi by del X. So first function as it is, your this guy into, now you have to differentiate this with respect to X, right? So first function as it is into derivative of the second function with respect to X, that is 0, plus second function as it is into derivative of the first function with respect to X, that is del P by del X, minus Cx equals to 0, minus Cx equals to 0. So what is this rule telling you? It is a usual rule, your MR equals to MC. So this shows the usual MR equals to MC rule for output, right? What is this rule telling you? This is telling you how the revenue is going to increase if the quality is going to increase by 1 unit. So it is also saying that you have to equate the increase in the revenue, that is marginal revenue, from change in the quality equals to the change in cost due to the change in quality, right? That is MR due to the change in quality equals to MR due to the change in cost. Sorry, equals to MC due to the change in quality. So it shows when Q is appropriately set, the monopoly should choose that level of quality for which MR attainable from increasing attainable from increasing the quality of its output. By 1 unit. This is exactly what I spoke earlier. I'm just writing this out. By 1 unit is equal to the marginal cost of making such an increase. Right. So monopolist has to use MR equals to MC rule for the output decision also, and it will also have to use MR equal to MC rule for the quality decision also, right? So this is the MR due to quality. This is the MC due to quality. So what Nicholson says, he says that monopolist has to use MR equals to MC rule in all dimensions, not only in the dimension due to the output, but also in the dimension due to the quality, right? The monopolist to proceed to the margin of profitability along all dimensions, whether quality, whether quantity, right? Then Nicholson goes a little step further. He says this, comparing this with competitive conditions. Comparing this with competitive conditions, right? So in the competitive conditions, you will be choosing that output level which is going to maximize the social welfare, right? Which is going to maximize the social welfare. So we are comparing it with the competitive conditions. So the level of quality chosen under competitive conditions will also be the one that maximizes net social welfare. So net social welfare is going to be, you're going to produce till Q star, right? So Q star is that level of output which is coming through the MC pricing. P is equal to MC. We are writing about the competitive conditions first. PQX DQ, that is your entire area under the demand curve, right? Up to your Q star minus the cost. This gives you the net. This gives you the net social welfare, where Q star is that level of output coming through the competitive process of MC pricing given X. Given X means given quality. Given X. So you might differentiate this social welfare with respect to X for a max in order to maximize this. So once you do that, so it will be Px. I mean, you'll be differentiating this with respect to X. This is Px as a function of Qx. dp minus Cx, differentiating this with respect to X. Differentiating this with respect to X. Now, let me just also compare this thing. Right. So there is a difference between this expression and this expression. There's a difference between this expression, right, and this expression. Okay. So if you look at this expression, for example, so this is looking at the marginal valuation of one more unit of quality. So please write, it looks at the marginal valuation of one more unit of quality. It's there now, MR equal to MC because of the quality increase. Assuming Q is at its profit maximizing level. Right. So, and this is the marginal valuation of quality, which is averaged across all units, all output levels. So marginal value of the quality averaged across at all output levels. Average across at all output levels, right? So then he says a very beautiful line. Nicholson says, he says that even if the monopoly and the perfect competition, if they chose the same output level, then also they might choose a different quality levels. They might choose the same output level, supposedly if they do, but they might choose a different quality levels, because here this is averaged out across all at all the output levels. This is, he's looking at the marginal valuation for one unit also, because so therefore even if the monopoly and a perfectly competitive industry shows the same output level. They might opt for different quality levels. Because each is concerned with a different margin. In its decision making. But this was, I know this is not a basic recording, but supposedly if you're preparing for the semester exam and Nicholson is what your text is, then they might ask you this thing. So you should know this, right? Thank you. This is what I want to do in this recording. Thank you, Beta.